We're going to talk about that, mate. We're going to talk about the fucking oi brubs. The only people you have looking out for you when the government is not, when the government is leaning into the right-wing sentiment, when the Labor government, the liberal, leftist, supposedly, government is leaning in to this kind of right-wing sentiment, the only people you have that will support you, that will defend you, is other people from any kind of background, really. It doesn't have to just be like other Muslims or other migrants or anything like that. You can see like white boys over here with the Jeremy Corbyn shirt on.
Local Imam Ali Assad said police advised his community to stay away to reduce tensions.
Yeah, dude, hey, sorry. These people are trying to kill you, so it would be nice if you just like hid. And it's like, the fuck do you mean, bro? What do you mean? Like, no, your job in that situation is to, you know, get the guys who are saying we're gonna hunt Muslims down and arrest them. You know what I mean? You're supposed to fucking defend the people standing up to the racists. Yeah, Keir Starmer. Exactly. These are the people that never integrated in society. I have them in my family. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. I think Margaret Thatcher should be unearthed from her grave for the unimaginable crimes that she has committed for England in general. Like, she is Ronald Reagan, but for England. And like what she did to the North, what she did to like labor strongholds, what she did to labor in your country, if you're British, like the consequences are so devastating. Because like all these people that I'm making fun of right now, they all were just like regular jobbers, okay? They were regular old fucking people. Their social safety nets crumbled, their jobs went away, they got fucking destroyed, and they just sat there with so much anger and resentment. And then somebody came in and was like, yeah, it's actually black people. It's actually brown people. It's actually Muslims. It's actually Muslims. That's the reason why you don't have a job anymore. And it's like, dude, as someone who lives in the North, these people are like dogs. They don't work and bitch and moan all day down. The local about immigrants, no GCSEs or qualifications is sad because the majority of them are caught in a cycle of poverty, but there are no mechanisms to pull out. Our schools are really underfunded, and so are social mobility support. Their hate is bred from a lack of exposure to other people. 100%. Bro, this is West Virginia. Like, this is Appalachia, okay? They're not like a unique breed, okay? This is just what happens when you've been told, when you run on like white supremacist fumes as a way to as a defense mechanism, as a way to like generate a sense of entitlement for yourself, when you have no other fucking outlet, when you have nothing. You've been given no fucking training programs. You've been given no options to like work. It's not like these people wouldn't work if they had the opportunity, but they've become like hateful little demons who are now just like unleashing on other people who are born out of the same fucking material conditions as they are. They just look different. Nobody is born racist, okay? Nobody. Remember that. It is all a byproduct of the material circumstances that you're subjected to, the material conditions that you're born into. The social conditioning is how you become racist. That's it. And these guys have nothing. And the only people that are reaching out to them and trying to help them use their anger and resentment and frustration. They capture their resentment and anger and frustration, and they fucking launch it upon people who are trying to make a living. He's from London, to be clear. No, I'm not just talking about him, but he is, just because he's from London, it doesn't fucking change his like circumstances. I'm shocked. I mean, I called that this was going to happen with the Keir Starmer election. But I'm shocked at how quickly they seized on this. And I'm kind of shocked that the EDL has this much play still. Like, I did not think that Tommy Robinson would make a comeback this hard, this fast.
In light of Labour leader Keir Starmer's...
Let's keep it $1.50. Margaret Thatcher ruined this goddamn country. But, you know, in the short-term period, what is going on? Another UK hoagie?
I just want to start off by saying, if I'm right-wing, then so be it. I'm just a normal working Englishman. I'm just a normal English bloke. And it seems that that's what the class right-wing extremists these days, which I think is... it's a bit fucking mental, to be fair.
Yeah, dude, all the fucking black and brown people that like, you know,
But anyway, this is what I
deliver your food, work in kitchens, work in construction, work in the NHS as nurses, doctors. Those guys are not working class automatically. Just you, bro. Just a normal English bloke. Yeah, just you, bro. Just you.
I want to say, right, I keep seeing videos floating about on here of British men, British people going, and it's always happening, it always does happen, where they're saying, they're taking our jobs, they're taking our jobs.
It's evident that these race riots didn't happen down south. Ask the average Southern what their opinion on immigrants, and they'll give a completely different answer to up here. The South has so much more money than us. It's like a completely different world. First time I went to a London suburb, it was like living in another world. Their state schools are better than the private schools up north. It's insane, the gap of education. Yes, and also you do have to remember, there's also significantly more diversity down south as well. So you can't like, it's the same rural-urban divide in the United States of America that also occurs in England as well. Like North, by the way, for those of you in America that are not familiar with this, the North is like former labor towns, you know, working class background for the most part, labor stronghold for the most part, whereas like the South was where the Tories were, like a lot more wealth there. England's entirety, like the entirety of the wealth in England comes from the South, specifically from London, specifically from like the finance sector. There's not much left in the British economy overall, considering that the entirety of the UK, the entirety of the UK was basically just run on colonialism. So isn't the North more diverse than the South if you count out London? I don't know the other parts, but how the fuck do you count out London? And yes, there were riots in the South as well. There were riots in the South as well. Pro tip, the parts of the UK that are the racist say there are no-go areas are essentially the multicultural areas that actually you would love to go for great culture. Yeah. Even most British and Europeans don't know this, but parts of England are poorer than southern Italy and Sicily, which is insane. Bro, England as a whole, I think, is like poorer than some of America's poorest states. Like, England is a very poor country, okay? England is a very, very poor country. You take London out of the equation, it is like straight up third world conditions, okay? It's not even this is like people don't really think about that. People don't really consider that at all in the calculation. Fuck off, bro. We aren't that poor. No, absolutely. England absolutely is that poor. What do you mean? It straight up is. It's so depressing. We can't get out of this spiral. We were the coal mining industry. All the wealth left when the mines closed. Are you mad, Lamau? I live here and I live very well. Bro, I'm not talking about your own personal anecdotes, man. London generates approximately 22% of the UK's GDP from Wikipedia. I don't know why you're getting offended at this, because America has parts of America that are also resembling third world-like conditions. I don't know why the fuck you would get mad at this. It is just our government's literally robbing us fucking blind. Like, it has nothing to do with you or your personal experience at all. It had everything to do with mismanagement and horrifying austerity that your own fucking leaders have subjected you to, similar to what has happened in the United States of America. This is neoliberalism without any sort of contest in the post-Cold War, in the aftermath of the Cold War. Neoliberalism, uncontested, has basically created colonial conditions internally. It is created internal colonies. It has basically brought back the colonial ambition and rampant exploitation back into the fucking mainland. That's it. It spread inward rather than outward in the way that, you know, England and United States is still doing that, the outward stuff too, but like doing it inward as well. It's the same exact fucking attitudes. Neoliberalism has people convinced that being poor is a moral failure. They think you're calling them losers for pointing out their exploitation is wild. Yeah. The UK is ranked 21 in GDP per capita from the IMF in 2024, lower than Canada. British people are literally stereotyped for moving to Thailand. Meanwhile, they're anti-immigration. Yeah. So if you want to understand all of this anger, resentment, and frustration, this guy is pretty correct on it. UK is dealing with a healthcare crisis, a housing crisis, transport crisis, food production crisis. Streets are filthy, can't get a job, shithole, I live here. Exactly. 14 years of Tory austerity. Look where the fuck you are now. You know what I mean? That's part of the reason why Keir Starmer, who had the charisma of a fucking wet noodle or a blanket, a wet blanket, still was able to fucking put numbers on the goddamn board as a consequence of the past 14 fucking years. Okay? And a thing that we haven't even gotten to, healthcare crisis. Yes, the NHS is severely underfunded. The NHS is so severely underfunded that when Boris Johnson was running last time around, he ran on funding the NHS. He lied. Okay? He lied. Of course he lied. But he still ran on it, which is to show you that the right wing of the UK was even cognizant. Brexit was not just sold on racist lies about Polish people stealing your fucking jobs, or, you know, brown and black people and Muslims stealing your fucking jobs, but also on the lie that England was sending too many funds to the EU and getting nothing in return, and that all of that money was going to go back to the NHS. Like, people recognize, in a place like England, people still recognize social safety nets as a necessity. Except their leadership never gives back to those social safety nets. This is why, in the immediate aftermath of the Starmer election, in the immediate aftermath of the Labour victory, what did I tell you? I said the thing to pay close attention to is the rise of reform. That is crazy. That means there's a lot of people who are completely hostile to black and brown people existing and coexisting in their fucking neighborhoods. That means that there are so many people who directly attribute their dire material circumstances to England no longer being white. Okay? Because that's exactly what reform ran on. They were just straight up like, we're more racist than the Tories. That's what they ran on. Okay? Fascism thrives in shitty economic circumstances, and austerity creates shitty economic circumstances for the working class. Reform UK landed second place in 18 Northeast areas. Yeah. And the reality is, just like I fucking told you, if Keir Starmer operates with the same like austerity principles, okay? If Keir Starmer still operates with the same austerity principles, which he said he was going to do, then this problem is going to get out of hand. If Keir Starmer leans into the anti-immigrant sentiment, this problem is going to get out of hand. And that's precisely what's happening. Keir Starmer has been operating on the fucking anti-immigrant principles. That's precisely what he did. When the Labour Party, that is expected to be a counterweight, a counterbalance to the fucking right-wing anti-immigrant sentiment, is also operating with anti-immigrant sentiment and capitulating to the fucking far right on this issue, of course these people are going to feel way more confident in their fucking idiotic position, not recognizing that I think the majority of the NHS is comprised of, you know, people who aren't white British, okay? Like, think about that. Can you imagine? Oh, we gotta get these fucking non-whites out of here, man. We gotta get these fucking migrants out of here. It's crazy. You have no country without that, dude. What are you talking about?
And you normally find it's the scruffy old dossers what are saying it. They take our jobs. They ain't taking the jobs, mate. They're doing the jobs that you, sat on your arse on Dole, don't want to fucking do. Let's face it, you don't want to do any fucking jobs, mate. You don't want to do any jobs. You just want to rinse the state. You want to just claim
Like, this is a turn, but he's also dumb. This is a dumb... No, he's not fucking based, bro. This guy baited us on. No, he's not based. I hate this fucking narrative, dude. This is some straightforward liberal nonsense, dude. Oh, it's because you're not wanting to do the fucking jobs. No, this is not about being self-reliant, okay? Like, oh, you're on the dole, mate. That's why you're a loser. You're not getting off your fucking ass and taking your fucking bootstraps and lifting yourself up by your bootstraps, yeah? Like, that's not the fucking problem, dude. That's not the problem.
I will claim job seekers. That's what you want to do. That's just an excuse so you don't have to go to work to earn a bit of dollar, to earn a bit of money. Do you know what I mean? So that is a pretty embarrassing thing to say. You can normally see from a mile off. They're absolutely scruffy old osses. You can just see why I say.
I think this guy's heart is in the right place, but his analysis is incorrect.
That I really don't understand. I really don't understand.
Oh my God, his fucking mom or dad is just like snoring in the background so loudly.
And then another thing is, why are people smashing shops up? Why are people looting? To me, it just seems like these with masks, these with the masks on, they're just looking for an excuse just to go and smash it up and just cause trouble and just kick off and just cause fights. What the fuck is the point in that? What's the point? That's obviously bred into you. That's obviously in you. Oh, yeah, any given chance I've got, let's go out and cause trouble. Let's go out and fucking fight. Let's go and smash stuff up. You're doing it now because you're in a big fucking crowd and you feel like you can get away with it. And it's absolutely disgusting. It needs to fucking stop. It needs to fucking stop. What is the point? What is that solving? What is that solving? I really do not understand. I really do not understand at all. What is the point you're trying to make by smashing people's businesses up, by doing all this? I don't understand it. It needs to stop. And then now, and I think people are just looking for any excuse as well. Now they're in big crowds as well, is just to...
Literally everything in this whole thing America has experienced extensively throughout the past 8 years. Yes. Look to England for what the American future is going to resemble if the Democratic Party doesn't get their fucking shit in order in terms of how to communicate about the quote unquote migrant problem. Okay? Labor completely capitulated to the right wing on this issue. Okay? They did. When you do that, when you lean on this shit, when you make it seem like, yeah, you're right, actually, it's fucking migrants, when all of those people that might look a little bit different than you have the exact same ambitions that you have. They want a roof over their heads. They want food on their fucking tables. They want a better life for their children. That is literally the exact same. They probably hate their bosses just like fucking you do. It's the same exact shit. Okay? And people are just desperately running away from that reality. They are trying their very best to not see it. Okay? They have the same exact interest. Doesn't matter what they believe. Doesn't matter what religion they believe. Doesn't matter what language they spoke. Okay? Originally. They all have the same exact ambitions. How do you explain the prevalence of racism among the upper and middle class then? Shouldn't they be woke? They have amazing lives. Please answer. Bro, racism isn't just born out of like, it's still the same social conditioning that upper middle class and rich people also experience as well. Like, it's not only if you're poor. I've never said that only poor people are racist. Like, do you think that rich people have like this magical barrier that causes them to not be racist or something? Like, no, of course, dude. They can look at Elon Musk. He is literally a white supremacist. Okay? Straight up. Dude writes a hate manifesto, gets 3 years. Climate activist plan blockage, get 5 years. Yeah, but have you thought maybe for a brief moment that like climate activists are annoying and also go against like capital, whereas racist riots are not entirely against capital? Douglas Murray called for violence too. Of course he did. He's a fucking right-wing freak. Regular BBC contributor Douglas Murray. If the army will not be sent in, then the public will have to sort this out themselves, and it'll be very brutal. I don't want them to live here. I don't want them here. They came under false pretenses. He's not talking about the fucking racist. He's not talking about the racist rioters that need to be dealt with. He is talking about black and brown people.
They've lost control of the streets. Now, is it time to send in the army at some point? Probably yes. But if the army will not be sent in, then the public will have to go in, and the public will have to sort this out themselves. And
he's talking about the public sorting out migration.
It'll be very, very brutal.
By the way, massive Zionist, massive defender of Israel. That's another part of the story that I haven't even gotten to. The government, the British government, under Tory leadership, and even under Labour leadership, really, is super aggro towards anyone that says free Palestine. But they really, really lower their interest of like doing their due diligence, you know, upholding the rule of law when it comes to fucking psychopathic, rabid fascists.
I don't want them to live here. I don't want them here. They came under false pretenses. Many of them came illegally and continue to come illegally. And we don't want them here. And I'm perfectly willing to say that because it needs to be said. If I hated Australia, hated the Australian people, hated Australian, but clearly they've lost.
Freak, dude.
Came into our house. Many of them broke into our house illegally. Many of them were never wanted here. And they have come here. They have betrayed all of our attempts at hospitality. They've spat in our faces.
Yeah, dude. By what? Fucking bringing halal food? Like actually using the seasoning? Like, what do you mean? Oh, they've spat in our faces. They're disrespecting us by existing around our white skin. Shut the fuck up. I hate these fucking monstrous pieces of shit, dude. See, this is the posh racist, okay? There's the obviously like the Faligalan style racist who has no teeth. And then this is the posh racist. This is the other side. Old school fascism, okay? Tory to the bone.
And now they want to trample everything we have underfoot. No. No.
Anyway, the ones complaining are wealthy. EDL supporters. As a customer at my place is place of work is the owner of 2 houses and 5 cars. I'm tired. Gross, gross, gross. Anyway, there's some positive notes as well with obviously like the way the community is dealing with it when it seems like the government is not going to take the fucking significant action necessary.
Let's take
and
a
we'll
look
get to that in a second. Let's wrap this up though.
That, you know, we're not each other's enemies.
But do you accept some of these people have been racist at these demonstrations?
There definitely is racism. But I don't think it's meant with ill intent. And I'm not talking about the organisers of the event, by the way, because they are troublemakers and they want to turn races against each other and communities against each other. But I honestly believe, and this is what I've witnessed, that the vast majority of people who've been protesting against Islam, against the Muslim community, I genuinely believe that they are beautiful human beings who were driven after Southport by their emotions, mixed together with a lot of toxic narratives they've been seeing in the media and online, especially during the election campaign. And I think it's bubbled up, and they've wanted ultimately to change a bad situation, what they perceive, whether it's based on ignorance or not. They've wanted to change a perceived bad situation into a good situation.
This bridge building hasn't just stopped at food handouts. Protesters have been invited into the mosque, and tomorrow they've invited Adam and some of his fellow worshippers on a day trip to Wales.
We're going to leave our phones on the coach, and we're going to walk out and we're going to force people to walk and talk together. He said, one of those coaches I want to give to you and the Muslim community to join us. So tomorrow morning we'll be heading up into the hills, and we won't be seeing any of these toxic narratives on social media, and we'll be able to meet each other, walk together, talk together, and we'll be doing our prayers, and they'll be doing some meditation, and I'm really looking forward to it.
A deadly Israeli.
Bro, he is a imam in London or in England. Of course he's like, and he's super telegenic. Obviously he's going to be nice about like the people trying to murder him, because the media is insanely hostile. I don't think you guys understand. Okay? The media is unimaginably hostile to Muslims. I showed you a conversation that I think she was a labor minister talking to another former labor minister who's now a political commentator, where she's like, why won't the media call this what it is? It's Islamophobia. And like, the guy was literally like, no, it's not. It's actually valid to have those points of view. Like, basically, he was like defending the idea. Zara Sultana was the one talking to the former labor minister who's like married to a current labor minister. And he literally was like defending the principle behind like anti-immigrant sentiment and why the media should not. Yeah, the presenter is married to the Home Secretary. The British media, and I've talked about this so much, but British media is insane. Like, British media is absolutely worse than American media. Okay? I've said this quite a bit. You don't understand how fucking demon-like British media is. Okay? They have been inflaming tensions non-stop. Okay? They've been inflaming tensions non-stop, and the Labour Party has also absolutely leaned on this shit. Now, for those of you who are new to the story, maybe unfamiliar, in Southport, there were mass stabbings that occurred where 3 children were killed and 10 others were injured. Okay? 3 children were killed, 10 others were injured. 9-year-old Elise Da Silva Aguar, 6-year-old Baby King, 7-year-old Elise Dot Stancombe died after sustaining serious injuries when a knife man entered Heart Center during a Taylor Swift-themed dance class on Monday, 29th of July. 8 other children suffered stab wounds, and 2 adults were also critically injured. Okay? And they didn't, and normally in the UK, they don't release information until a conviction comes out about who the criminal is. Okay? Especially if the person responsible for the crime is underage, which in this circumstance, the mass stabber was underage. Okay? They don't do it for underage criminals. If you recall, this was another thing that happened, I think, when it was like many years back. There was like these 2 psychotic children that like kidnapped another child and like murdered the child. There was a lot of fucking there was a lot of protests in England like a couple years back. Anyway, you might recall the privacy laws from that issue. Okay? So here's the thing. Immediately fake news ran with it. Immediately fake news ran with it all over social media and started saying they're hiding who the stabber was because he's a migrant. They're hiding who the stabber was because he's a migrant of Muslim background. Okay? Some people were claiming that he was an undocumented migrant of Muslim background. Okay? Turns out none of those things are true. Okay? The stabber actually was from a Christian family and was born in Wales. He was a Welsh Christian. He was black, but he was a Welsh Christian. So all of that was completely fucking made up, but it did not matter. Just like with the Imam Khalif situation. Okay, yeah, Stabber was born in Wales of Ethiopian descent, Christian. Okay, and he also had like obviously significant mental health problems. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. or Rwanda, not Ethiopian. I thought he was Rwanda, but someone said he's Ethiopian in the chat. My apologies. Okay. Immediately they ran with these false narratives. Okay, they ran with these false narratives, and it took up in a country like England that has been struck by austerity for so many years, where there is so much instability, so much poverty, right? And with both parties, including Labor, running on right-wing anti-immigrant sentiment, okay? Running on right-wing anti-immigrant sentiment, everyone was already primed. Everyone was primed for like any kind of pivotal moment. And at a time when we see right-wingers basically lose their fucking minds, right? On things that are utterly delusional, okay? Completely delusional, completely nonsensical. It doesn't matter what the truth is. What matters is how people feel. What matters is how many people will lean on this new narrative born out of hysteria that corresponds to their biases. Just like with the Iman Khalif situation, Algerian female boxer Iman Khalif is a woman. She was assigned female birth, born a woman, always been a woman, right? And yet people decided she was not a woman. And so many people fucking ran with that narrative and still go off on this narrative that she is not a woman. Now a gold medalist, by the way. Okay? And no amount of proof, which shouldn't even be necessary in this circumstance, is like crazy, but no amount of proof would get people, to actually fucking believe the reality in front of their eyes. They don't care. Nobody cares about the truth anymore. They simply care about their feelings, and they simply care about how certain things make them feel. They simply care about leaning on narratives that correspond to their own biases. Okay? But this story is not simply about like a Christian person doing this stabbing, because like even if it was a Muslim migrant that engaged in the stabbing, that still would be unimaginably inappropriate, okay, to just like run on this race riot. Like it would be completely unacceptable. It's actually fucking crazy. It's actually crazy that we've moved past like instances of violence that like people commit, and then that being attributed to the entire marginalized population, to just like, oh, I just felt like this was the population that is at fault. Okay? And I don't know how to fucking solve this problem, but yeah, two-tier policing in action. Exactly. They're defending the fucking fascists. You know what's really funny and somewhat nefarious, but they're too stupid to recognize the history of it, but still ironic, funny, about the two-tier policing garbage? Okay? England has a history of allowing fascists to do demonstrations, shows of force through black and brown communities and through socialist, like trade unionist neighborhoods, okay, historically, while defending the fucking fascists. That's what makes it so interesting, that they fucking turn around and they're like, oh, it's two-tier policing, lad. It's like, yeah, it is. Except it has always been historically pro-fascist two-tier policing. Anyway. But yeah, as far as all this like fascist anti-immigrant garbo goes, big part of that is like obviously built-in austerity, built-in resentment, all this stuff. And beyond that, the government is like not being very responsive, or wasn't responsive early on. It took like a week for them to like, a week of hate crimes galore for them to like actually start bringing police out in numbers necessary. And I I don't know where the fuck Keir Starmer is the whole time. But yeah, exclusive. The UK government has ignored communications from the country's largest body representing British Muslims since far-right riots began last Tuesday. Middle East Eye can reveal. Owen Jones responded to that, or quote tweeted it and said, imagine there was a nationwide pogrom against British Jews which lasted for days. Imagine the government then refused to speak to, let alone meet with the Board of Jewish Deputies. This is what the government has just done to Britain's main Muslim organization. Keir Starmer. It is wild. They are, as you said, Starmer literally ran on anti-immigration rhetoric. I know. And the British media is so unimaginably racist towards migrants. They have played a significant role in whipping up this crime panic, this migrant panic. And the Labour Party is also, to a certain degree, responsible for it because they never counter-messaged against the migrant stuff. They actually leaned into it. And
In light of Labour
if they do not try and fix the underlying material
leader
problems
Keir Starmer's
born out of Tory austerity measures, if they do not fix that, it's only going to get worse. You watched me react in real time to the Labour victory, and this is the only thing I talked about. And I didn't even think that it was going to take, like, it was going to happen in like a matter of months, if not fucking weeks. I did not realize. I thought that it would be something that bubbles up and something that reaches a boiling point, maybe like a 1 year into the administration, 2 years into the administration. Nope. That should happen a couple months after. Okay? I told you that this was devastating. 2024 is yet again the year of HasanAbi vindication in this regard. It took 29 fucking days for what I told you was going to happen to actually fucking happen. American liberals don't understand how devastating the situation is. They didn't understand that, like, this shit was leading to this shit was going to reach a boiling point. Okay? Keir Stalin has to do a couple different things. One, ease tensions on the fucking anti-immigrant rhetoric. But more importantly than that, he also has to unconditionally reverse the British trajectory of neoliberal austerity. If he does not do that, England is cooked. Okay? You are going to see more of this, more of these racist, right-wing, anti-migrant sentiment bubble up once again. You're going to see more fucking hate crimes, and you're not going to know how to deal with it. And you're going to keep going, oh, well, I'm capitulating to the right-wing framing on migrants. I'm just going to believe that migrants are responsible for crime and we got to do something about it. Okay? It's completely fucked. Anyway, let's look at now 4 ways in which Thatcher destroyed Britain.
recent standing of Margaret Thatcher. Let's take a look at 4 ways the Iron Lady destroyed Britain. 1. Thatcher laid the grounds for the rampant inequality we see today. When she took office, Britain was one of the most equal of wealthy countries. When she resigned, inequality had hit a record high. Thatcher introduced banking deregulation and halved income taxes for the country's wealthiest.
Don't cut down the tall poppies. Let them rather grow tall.
The top 1% of earners accrued more and more wealth.
I've made a fortune, and that's what I want.
At the same time, she slashed benefits. Under her government, wage inequality skyrocketed.
We will bring in a society where public expenditure is cut and where waste of taxpayers' money is ruthlessly expunged.
I think the craziest part about this is that, like, British people in a lot of ways have like the absolute worst peasant brain, because like at least Ronald Reagan was like kind of charismatic in the way that he actually sold the idea. Okay. Like at least Ronald Reagan sold the idea to the majority of Americans that like tax cuts for the wealthy and deregulation were good, fuck labor, all this stuff. Whereas like Margaret Thatcher was very obviously a societal elite, and like did not present herself, like, I think successfully as pro working class. Blows my mind.
During her tenure, the percentage of Britons living below the poverty line rose from 13% to 22%. Child poverty more than doubled. As one Labour
Is this good? I can't tell.
MP put it, Thatcher's policies caused poverty and deprivation not seen since the Dickensian era. 2. Thatcher presided over a huge wave of privatisation. She rapidly sold off government-run companies at knock-off prices and unleashed the earliest waves of outsourcing on the NHS. Thatcher also sold off the UK's North Sea oil assets in order to pay for tax cuts for higher earners. 3. Thatcher paved the way for today's housing crisis. The 1980 Housing Act invited tenants to purchase their council homes at a discount rate. Since then, over 2 million council houses have been sold off, with less than 5% being replaced. Today, over 1 million...
That's another one of those things where it's like, dude, imagine what you had and then you lost it. Like America didn't have these initiatives even due to America being like obviously openly anti-communist and being so far removed from the USSR and like trade unionist movements by this point, you know, post World War II in the 60s, 70s, and then 80s, reaching its peak in the 80s, right? Like at least due to its proximity to the USSR, due to its proximity to, you know, former successful labor movements, trade unionist momentum, they at least had some social safety nets. They still retain some social safety nets, like the NHS being like a pretty obvious one, right? It is rather difficult to gut all of that. But like, we didn't even have that. You at least had that shit, and she took it away. I don't know, man. It's just so frustrating. Fuck.
Million households are stuck on social housing waiting lists. Homelessness has hit a record high. And a 2017 study found that 40% of right-to-buy homes are now owned by private landlords. Affordable social housing has turned into unaffordable private rentals. 4. Thatcher.
Like, ain't nobody from England has enough money to avoid the top of the hour ad break because of these policies. You know what I'm saying? Because at the top of the hour, there is a 3-minute ad break. And if you're from London town, if you're from Londonistan, yeah, you ain't got that sauce. You ain't got the juice. You ain't got the quid. All right? You ain't got the fucking quid, yeah? Thatcher is responsible. She's the reason. Anyway. 3-minute ad break is coming to you regardless, of course. To the Oi Bruvistan. To the Oi lads. To the Oi lads. To the Oi Bruvs. Here it is. We're going to move on from this to American news in a second.
Decimated workers' rights. Her government wiped out 15% of British industry, as in mining, manufacturing and steel.
She closed all the pits, one by one. Closed them all.
Everybody's lost their houses, they're all in debt. And she was looking after the rich. They didn't go for the actual working class bloke.
Unemployment rose to more than 3 million in 1983. Meanwhile, Thatcher sought to crush trade unions. New laws made it harder for workers to strike, and the police brutally suppressed those that did.
The rule of law must prevail over the rule of the mob. She called us the enemy within. There were only one enemy within, and that was her.
Trade union membership has been steeply declining since the Thatcher years, meaning less and less workers are protected by collective agreements. As his own MPs have pointed out, Keir Starmer's praise of Margaret Thatcher for setting loose our natural entrepreneurialism failed to account for the inequality, hunger, destitution and misery that resulted from her policies. As one Labour MP warned, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
God, Keir, you child starver, you fucking monster. Oh my God. Oh my God. I don't know. I don't know what happens. I don't know what happens with the UK. Okay. I don't know. Anyway,